Yeah, yeah, okay. I promise I'll cry and pee and poop in the toilet next time when I think about what Herbert did to me. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be back next week for more therapy. Bye. Hi. Didn't see you there. No, I wasn't crying about Herbert laying me down. I was preparing. Yes. I was preparing to talk about the conference title games this weekend. 4 teams left in the tournament and only 1 trophy. Who's going to take it? Let's take a look at the matchups. Let's start with the AFC title game between the New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos. First of all, I have to address some really weird coincidences in this game. The Broncos and Patriots actually both faced off 10 years ago in the AFC title game. And what's even stranger is that the AFC title game was in Mile High, just like this AFC title game. And what's even more stranger is that the winner of that game went on to play in the Super Bowl in Santa Clara, just like this one, where whoever wins this AFC title game will go on to play in the Super Bowl in Santa Clara. I gotta say, those are a lot of strange coincidences, but it's kind of crazy to think that it's been 10 years since we last saw Peyton Manning and Tom Brady face off in the AFC title game. 10 years ago, I was still a freshman in high school, and the Chargers were still in San Diego when that game happened. So, my goodness, I feel old now. And that game ultimately ended with the Broncos winning on a last-second 2-point conversion stop. So does that mean that the Broncos are going to win it all? I'll get to that in a bit, but first, let's start with the Patriots. The New England Patriots are right now playing their best defensive football, especially in the last 2 playoff games. In the last 2 playoff games, they've allowed only 19 points, have 6 takeaways, and have only allowed 1 touchdown pass. Along with their rushing defense, which has only given up 67 total rushing yards to running backs. They have also accumulated 9 sacks and are allowing teams to only convert 8 of 27 third downs and allowing teams to only be 1 for 6 in the red zone. Those are some crazy defensive stats, and it's a huge reason why the Patriots have been so successful this postseason, because when I watch this Patriots team and I watch specifically their defense, how they're playing, they remind me so much of the 2001 Patriots, where that team really rode the defense to the Super Bowl. Even though, yes, I know that was Tom Brady that was the quarterback. If you just watch those games and look at the numbers, you can clearly tell that the Patriots were heavily relying on the defense to win them games. And it seems like the same is going to have to happen in these playoffs, because their offense, despite being one of the best in the league, has actually been very average to below average. Drake May, who has been an MVP candidate all year long, has actually been turnover prone in these playoff games. He has 5 total turnovers, and it's definitely a huge drop off from his MVP performance, where he had over 30 touchdowns and around 8 interceptions, but now in the playoffs he only has 4 touchdowns with 2 interceptions. And what's a little bit concerning is his completion percentage, that he's only completing around 59% of his passes, and he's taken 10 sacks already in 2 games. 10 sacks in 2 games. Who the heck does this offensive line think they are? Are they the Chargers offensive line? But yeah, as I've been saying, this team is very similar to the 2001 Patriots, and it seems like they're trying to go on a similar postseason run like that, which is kind of weird when you think about it, because on the NFC side, you have the Rams facing the Seahawks. So if the Patriots and Rams both win their games, you have a third matchup in the Super Bowl between the Patriots and Rams. But is that going to happen? Well, let's take a look at the Patriots opponent, the Denver Broncos. Obviously, the big storyline for the Denver Broncos is Bo Nix being out for the AFC title game, which is just such a tough break to get. Regardless of what you think of Bo Nix and whether you think if he's the real deal or anything like that, there's no denying that Bo Nix had that clutch factor all year long, especially when you consider the fact that the Broncos were 11-2 in one-score games. I know, yeah, like a lot of people like to call the Broncos frauds, but to put it simply, you don't just go 11-2 out of nowhere. Like, you don't just simply accidentally win 11 one-score games out of nowhere. Like, no, like, this was a very good team, and Bo Nix was a huge reason why the Broncos would win that many one-score games. But with him being out, that makes it just so much tougher for the Broncos. And as for their backup quarterback, Jarrett Stidham is, let's just say, he's not exactly the best backup quarterback out there. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some quality backup quarterbacks, and there are definitely some instances of backup quarterbacks coming in and actually winning it all Nick Foles in 2017, Tom Brady in 2001, Kurt Warner in 1999. There are definitely instances of backup quarterbacks coming in and winning it all. But before we talk about if Stidham can actually do it, let's talk about really what is the strength of the team, which is their defense. Their defense against the Buffalo Bills recorded 5 takeaways. 2 of those were very key takeaways right at the end of half and in overtime, which essentially set up the Broncos for 6 points in a game where they won by 3 points. So clearly this Broncos defense knows how to get takeaways and knows when it's the right time to get takeaways. They registered 3 sacks, and throughout the entire year they registered 68 sacks. So this is no normal defense to just sneeze at. To put it simply, this defense was averaging 4 sacks throughout the entire year. They did give up 449 total yards of offense, but again, when you get 5 turnovers on defense, those 449 yards are essentially empty calorie yards. So really the 5 takeaways kind of override the 449 total yards of offense that the Broncos defense gave up. The Broncos are going to have home field advantage in this game, which is pretty big because one of the toughest places to win at is in Denver, especially when you consider the mile-high altitude, the Denver crowd. When you factor all that into effect, that does make winning at Denver extremely tough. But of course, the main question is Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham, to put it simply, he has not started a game all year long. And really, the last time I recall him starting a game was in 2022 when he was on the Raiders. And I mean, one game he looked good, but the other game, not so much. So the question is, can the Broncos overcome the loss of Bo Nix? If the Broncos had a quality starting quarterback like Gardner Minshew or Mac Jones, then I would have said yes, and I would have actually picked them to win this game. But to put it simply, I don't trust Jarrett Stidham. He's never had any quality starting time. And again, as I was saying, I can only think of one game in which he actually looked good, which was against the 49ers 3 years ago when he was on the Raiders. He didn't even take a snap all year long. That is really alarming. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game because of the Broncos' top defense and the Patriots' average offensive play this postseason. They've really taken a step back from their regular season dominance. I think the Broncos' defense will keep it close, but in the end, Jarrett Stidham will not be able to move the ball against the red-hot Patriots defense, and I think the offense will do just enough to win the game and advance in the Super Bowl. Final prediction, Patriots win 17-10. Now on to the NFC title game where we have a rubber match between the LA Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. Let's start with the Rams. Obviously, we know that the Rams have the number 1 offense in points and yards, and so far, I feel like they've been playing up to that standard. They only have 1 turnover in 2 playoff games, although their third down percentage is not that good. They're only 8 for 29 on third down, so, that's not too good. But their defense has actually been playing pretty solid in these playoff games, getting 5 takeaways in 2 games. But I think what's the biggest factor for the Rams' success is their play in clutch time. They have 2 game-winning drives against the Panthers and Bears. Both of those times they were trailing and they actually managed to squeak out victories, whether if it was in overtime or at the end of regulation. In my opinion, Stafford and Puka are really the key to victories since they've been dominant all year long. We know Stafford, he threw 46 TDs, only 8 picks. I think he's going to win the MVP. I think he is the league MVP. And Puka Nacua, like I said, he has had an absolutely dominant year with over 1,700 receiving yards. The guy absolutely just cannot be stopped. To put it simply, the Rams' strength is on their offense. If they're going to win these next 2 playoff games, it's going to come from their offense. And I think they are most lethal in clutch time. When the game is close in the 4th quarter, that is when they are at their most dangerous. And as for their opponent, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are coming off a whopping 41-6 beatdown win over the 49ers. Sam Darnold was a game manager in that game, and he wasn't asked to do much. He threw for a crisp 12 of 17 for 124 yards with 1 touchdown pass, which is pretty decent for a game manager. However, the strength of the Seahawks offense is in their rushing attack. Kenneth Walker had 19 carries for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think for the Seahawks, that is going to be their key to victory. Their key to victory is going to be in their rushing attack, at least from the offensive side. If they can lean on the rushing attack on Kenneth Walker and they can ask Sam Darnold to make a few throws here and there to keep the sticks moving and move the chains, I think the Seahawks offense will be just fine. And they have the receivers to do it. Jackson Smith and Jigba, is that how you pronounce it? I think that's how you pronounce it. Has led the league in receiving yards, and they even have a reliable receiver in Cooper Kupp, a former Rams, by the way. So they have the offense to do it. They have the running game to keep the Rams off the field for a long period of time, and they have the receivers to help Sam Darnold make at least 1 or 2 key throws in the game to keep the chains going, keep the Rams off the field, and just continue to just pound the rock. But where the true strength of the Seahawks lies in is in their defense. They had the number 1 defense all year long in points allowed. They only allowed 236 total yards against the 49ers, which is insane, especially when you know how good the Niners offense is. They held Brock Purdy to only 140 passing yards with 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and they even caused them to lose a fumble. And they even held Christian McCaffrey to only 35 rushing yards. The Seahawks also have the number 1 third down defense, are 5th in the red zone on defense, meaning that against a top offense like the Rams, they can definitely get the Rams off the field and put the Seahawks offense back on there. If I'm the Seahawks and I win the coin toss, I am electing to put my offense out there so that then we can, again, try to chew up the clock with Kenneth Walker. And then when it's time for the Rams to come back on the field, I can rely on that top defense to get the Rams off the field on third down. But is it going to happen? Are the Seahawks going to be able to defeat the Rams and actually go to the Super Bowl? This is really a strength versus strength matchup, as the strength of the Rams is on offense while the strength of the Seahawks is on defense. However, I actually don't think that's where the game is going to be decided. I think the game is going to be decided by another key factor, which is Sam Darnold. A lot of people have been questioning whether Sam Darnold can actually win a playoff game, even though he already won one. But I mean in the sense that if he can play good in a playoff game, and if he can shake off any demons that might hold him back from playing good when it matters the most. Me personally, I think he can. I actually do think Sam Darnold is going to have a good game versus the Rams. I think he'll rise to the occasion, but I'm going to pick the Rams to win it. I think this is going to be a very close game. And although the Seahawks won the last matchup between these two teams, let's face it, like 9 times out of 10, the Rams are winning that matchup. That just so happened to be the 1 in 10 matchups in which the Seahawks actually pulled off the win. In the end, I think the Rams will pull off the win. And although many people still have questions about Darnold's playoff play, he at least has 1 playoff win, unlike other quarterbacks on my team. Anyways, the final prediction, Rams win 27-24.